Good morning, folks. What is today's topic on Coffee and Questions? I had somebody email me saying, hey, I've got round pipe I'm trying to weld and I'm having a lot of difficulty kind of holding the pieces together, while I weld it. And so I texted back. I said, well, one of the simplest solutions, like you see in the picture here, where the cut is make sure you put your tack welds spaced apart when you begin. But I realized he was having more of a problem than that. So let me change up the picture and I'll show you a couple of simple methods on how you can weld round pipe and you can weld it accurately. Give me just a sec to change the picture. Okay, I changed the picture over to this piece of pipe. Now take a close look where the two pieces of pipe come together. You can see where it's kind of ground. Now I use a vertical sanding machine. You can use a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a flap disc or any method that you want. But I clean up this weld area where I'm going to weld between those two pieces of pipe. So with some method, you want to get that clean where the metal is shiny and it's showing like this. Now, I set this into a piece of angle iron. I'm going to show you a better picture in a minute. But this is very simple to use. You just get a piece of scrap angle iron and you use it to support these two pieces when you bring them together. And then you're going to spot weld it, like maybe right in front. And then I go about halfway around it, and on the back side I spot weld it. I come back between those, I spot weld it. If you go around this spot welding like I told you before you run a full bead, it's going to stay in perfect alignment. Give me just a sec, I'll show you a different picture of what I mean. Okay, right up above my head you see where I use a piece of angle iron, and yes, I put a little support block in front of it and I put one in back of it so the angle iron doesn't tilt on me. Then I tack weld it like I'm showing you here in this picture. And if you do that like 4 times around it, like I said with the tack welds, it will stay in perfect alignment. And then you can go ahead and weld between each one of those tack welds and run a nice bead all the way around this. That's the easiest way to do it. I mean, there are other methods. I'll show you one other that a guy created. I haven't done it yet, but it is a good idea. Give me just a sec. Okay, now the picture up here on the top right. Now this is a really good idea. I haven't done it yet, but you can. What he did is he went and he got some cheap pipe clamps, C-pipe clamps, probably out at Harbor Freight or somewhere, and he went ahead and he welded them onto a piece of angle iron, and then he took another couple of scrap pieces of angle iron and he put those two little beds on there and welded them. And now when he puts those pieces of pipe on there and brings them together in the middle, he can just secure them down with these C-clamps. Now that will keep it in perfect alignment too, and it's a great idea. So I'm just showing you 2 easy methods here. I mean, one, you have to go out and buy a few things, and I would tell you don't get anything expensive. Go out to Harbor Freight, get some of those cheap C-clamps, come home, and like I say, you can weld them onto the bottom. So that's a really good idea. I just don't do enough of round pipe welding to worry about it. So I revert back to this original method of just using the support blocks and the angle iron. Okay, that's your quick tip of the day. Let me take a quick look and see if there's any other questions that were emailed to me, and we'll wrap this up. One of the questions is why bother weld prepping? Well, I mean, look, if you want your welds to be strong and if you want them to hold, that's what you do. You weld prep because it gets all the cosmoline, which is like an oil, and it gets all the scale and all this stuff off of there. And then you have better penetration all the way through when you're welding. So my advice is, unless it's just something like some little art project that you don't care about, then I would weld prep. Even with art projects, if I can weld prep an area, it takes 2 seconds, to do it. And I know that the welds will be much stronger, but I hope that answers your question. Somebody said, well, I do this similar to the way you're explaining, but my welds come out really ugly and crappy looking. Okay, you have an angle grinder, put a flap wheel on there. Now use 40 grit or 60 grit to start with, and you can go right around this and bring those welds down and make them look like they weren't there. You can switch it from 40 and 60 grit up to 80 grit. You can go 120, whatever you want, and almost polish your welds when you're done. Don't get hung up on your welds look crappy. They'll look better as you keep practicing and as you keep using the welder. And this is how everybody starts to get a little bit better. And I told the story a long time ago. I had what they call an Astro MIG welder. It was just a cheap buzz box kind of a welder. And I used to think I was a horrible welder. And then I was over visiting a friend, and he has a shop. And he wanted me to check out and try his Miller welder that he has that he uses in his shop. Showed me just a couple of things, maybe 10-15 minutes of instruction on, without even the power on what to do. And I turned around and practiced on some scrap steel while I was there, and then I realized it's not so much that I'm a crappy welder. I had a crappy machine. So it didn't take me long, and I upgraded to the Miller-Matic 211, and I never turned back. I mean, I love that machine. I can do really good welds, but I'm not a professional welder, so my welds come out kind of crappy looking sometimes too, but the fact is you can dress them up. You just want to make sure you weld prep and get good penetration. Those are my two big tips for you. Does the quality of the MIG wire matter? Yes and no. I have a friend, he loves Harbor Freight, like I was saying in another video. He buys his wire from out there. Now, I don't. I buy Lincoln Electric wire. I get it from Home Depot. Sometimes I buy it online. It just depends on the price. Or I buy wire made by Radnor out at Air Gas, because I have a friend that I work with. Her husband manages and runs Air Gas. So those are really good, high-quality wires, and it does matter. I have a previous video on how MIG wire is manufactured, so it does matter. So I get good quality wire. And the question is, what is my favorite MIG wire to use? Well, I buy the two that I just explained. If somebody said you can only buy one MIG wire, what would you buy? Because I do a lot of like horseshoe welding and stuff like that, and I don't always weld prep and blah, blah, blah. I buy Lincoln Super Arc. You're going to pay a little bit more for it, but with dirty materials and stuff like that, I'm still able to get a little bit better penetration than I would from cheap generic MIG wire. But again, I don't buy cheap generic MIG wire. I still buy good wire. But if I had to pick one, yes, it would be Lincoln Super Arc. My advice, thing, is you're interested in the topic, is look back through my videos that I've done, and I've done a video in explaining to you there is a huge difference in the manufacture of MIG wire, and I go more in depth on why I only buy certain wires. But I hope that answers your question on, what's my favorite. I'm not really sure of the question. It's something along the lines is, why is it so important, the alignment? Well, okay, look, you can weld prep these things and get sloppy, with making that nice little shiny part that you see in the very middle here. You can get sloppy. It doesn't line up right. I mean, but if you put them in a piece of angle iron, they will line up almost absolute. And then you can tack weld, and then you can fill in the voids from, your weld prepping or whatever is a little off, and still this pipe will come out straight. I mean, I don't know how to explain it better than that. I mean, that's just the purpose of it. I want them to be nice and straight when I'm done. I don't want the pipe to be crooked. Okay, that's it for this. There's no other questions. I'm the home handyman, and this is a quick tip for you out in your garage on how to weld round pipe, and to do it the easy way without having to buy any elaborate tools. So I hope you click subscribe, keep following me, give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you folks soon. Bye-bye.